Hello and welcome back to Freedom, everybody. Welcome back to Helldivers 2, where today we're going to be taking a look at all the secondary weapons, and we're going to be ranking them versus the squids. So the squids got some brand new enemies, as well as we got a brand new secondary in the form of the Saber, which is a really cool looking weapon. Definitely my favorite of the melee weapons overall. It looks awesome, and it fits really well with the shield, as well as I love the way that your guy holds it. Really cool there. Either way, let's begin this with the P2 Peacemaker. So this is the starting pistol, and against squids, it is okay. It's actually pretty good against the voteless, so on lower difficulties, it's pretty good. But against basically everything else, the pistol is just too little. It's kind of too weak. It doesn't have enough mags to it. It's got light armor pen on it. It actually does okay damage and pretty decent damage per second. But overall, it's just really not that great of a gun, and I think it's one of the few secondaries that could definitely use a buff. It's going to go into C tier. It's just really not that amazing against the squids. Does okay against the smaller enemies like the voteless, but against any of the bigger enemies, it really doesn't do much. Against like the new flesh mobs, it's just too slow to actually kill them. Most of the secondaries aren't way great at killing them. Some of them are. And against like the overseers and stuff, it just takes too long to knock their armor off. If this had more mags, it could be a little bit better for that. But sadly, that's just not really the case for the pistol at the moment. Then we have the P19 Redeemer, the submachine gun. This one is usually pretty good. It's okay against the squids, though, I found. Where against like the overseers, you can kill them, but it takes quite a few rounds to actually put them down. It can be used against like the flesh mobs to okay effect. It's not really one of the best for that role, and it can be good against the voteless. That's really where it excels at. It's definitely better than the pistol, but it's not really that crazy. I find it actually better against like bots and bugs than it is against squids, just usually because there's so many more of them. So spraying this into a crowd can definitely cut down the crowd a bit, but I don't think it's one of the best secondaries, so this one would be B tier for me. Our next secondary is the P113 Verdict. This one is pretty much the Deagle, and this one is actually really good against the squids. I think it's best against the squids, better than what it is against like the bugs and the bots. It's still a very solid weapon for those ones too. Like the Deagle is just very good overall. It does good damage at 125. It has medium armor pen, so it can hurt really everything that the Illuminate have. Like it deals with them really well. You can put down the overseers very fast with this. You can put the voteless down very fast. You can take out things like their flying drones. You can take out even the flesh mobs without too much trouble. Not usually just from this. You could do it if you want. It does have enough damage for that. But overall, it's a very good weapon. It's very spammy, and it's very easy to control. Like the Verdict, I would put all the way up into S tier. I think it's one of the best secondaries for the squids. Then we have the Senator, which is one of my absolute favorite secondaries. I love this thing. You got the big iron here. This one has heavy armor pen. It's pretty much one of the few secondaries and really one of the few weapons that you can carry on your person that's not a special weapon that actually has heavy armor pen. Does really high damage at 200 damage per shot. Holds 6 rounds. You can reload all 6 at once if you need to, thanks to the speed loader from it. It does actually hurt pretty much all the Illuminate. It's just that I find it to be maybe actually the weakest against the Illuminate as compared to when it's against bots and when it's against bugs. It's still a very good weapon. It can still put down the overseers really quick. You can kill flesh mobs with this, but it does take quite a while. You can put down like the drones. You can even shoot the harvesters with this and kill them. You can with the Deagle as well. I should have mentioned that. So things like the Senator can actually hurt them really well. It's just that this one is a little bit more awkward. You're going to have to be reloading it pretty often. It doesn't reload as fast as Deagle, and the Deagle is a little bit more spammy. So I think the Deagle is actually better in this instance than the Senator is. So I'm going to put this one high up into A tier. It's still a very good weapon. Up next, we have all the melee weapons. And first up, we have the Stun Lance. And the Stun Lance is probably the best of the melee weapons against the squids. It's probably just the best melee weapon in general right now, since it does have a stun and it has the longest reach out of any of them. Even like the new flag that acts like a spear has exactly the same stats and exactly the same reach as the Stun Lance, even though it looks like it should be longer and it should have more range than what it does. This one does have medium armor pen on it. It can stun things. You can 1v1 like the flesh mobs with this, funny enough, because you can kind of keep them in place. With the ballistic shield, you can just hold that right out and just keep stabbing them, and they really can't do anything about that. It does kill crowds very quickly, and you can kill overseers with it fairly fast, although it's more awkward, especially if the overseers got like the backpacks. Then it's going to be really difficult to hit them with the lance. So it still has some limitations against them, as well as I'm just not way great at using melee. I've seen plenty of other people that have done much better things than I have with the spear, so it's still a little bit situational, and you're not going to want to be using this against like the harvesters. I guess it could technically kill them if you're willing to get close and stab them and you have like electric proof armor. Then maybe the Stun Lance could actually work in that situation. I'm going to put this one high up into B tier, though. I think it's a very solid weapon if you do want to use it for crowds and if you want a secondary that just has infinite ammo. Up next, we have the rest of the melee weapons, which are substantially weaker than like the lance. The stun baton is first, and this one does less damage. It has the same stunning effect as the spear does, and it's actually pretty good against the voteless, and it can be pretty decent against the overseers that are on the ground, because you can just keep stunning them. It's also actually pretty good for the flesh mobs too. You can get up close and just beat them down thanks to the stun lance. It won't work against multiple of them if they all start attacking, or if they're enraged. But if you want something that's a little bit quicker and you want to take this with a shield, this one is actually pretty good. It's pretty nice. So I would put this one, it's still going to go into C tier for me personally, because I don't find it as useful as a spear. The spear gives me longer reach and does basically the same job as this. This one is just a little bit nicer for clearing up like the voteless crowds, but the voteless crowds usually aren't that difficult to clear up with your primary weapon, or if you brought a support weapon like one of the machine guns, you can kind of just mow right through them with that, and you don't even need to get within the melee range. Then we have the combat hatchet. The combat hatchet does pretty good damage, although it has shorter reach than something like the lance. It does more damage than something like the baton, but it doesn't have the stun on it. This one is pretty good against the voteless crowds, and that's kind of about it. You can kill overseers with it, and you can kill like the flesh mobs with it, especially if you have it in conjunction with the ballistic shield. That definitely makes it better, but by itself it's still a bit awkward. You still have to run like a build specifically for this, and I think the lance is better, so this is going to go to C tier. We also have the new Saber, which is really cool, but statistically it's pretty much exactly the same as the axe. I think it has about the same reach, at least it feels like it does. It does the same amount of damage, it has the same attack pattern, it has like the same armor pen, and again, if you pair it with like the ballistic shield and you just want to kill like voteless mobs, you can absolutely do that with the sword. It's not bad. You can kill like the overseers with this, or even the flesh mobs with it. But again, that's more like the shield kind of carrying you so that you're allowed to do this. Whereas like the sword itself is fine for clearing up the voteless mobs, and that's about it. It doesn't really do any other job than that. It's similar to the axe. So another C tier weapon, not terrible. It's just highly specialized, and there's already more specialized weapons or even more general weapons that can kind of do all of these melee weapons job, but a little bit more consistent or a little bit better. Something like, let's say the sickle already has basically infinite ammo, can mow through all those enemies pretty fast, and you never actually have to get within melee range to actually fight any of them. Then we have the stim pistol, which the stim pistol is going to go to our utility tier like it always does, because that's pretty much the main tier where it's going to go in. It's really good if you're playing multiplayer, and it's really good if you take like the experimental infusion. If you're using it in solo, it's basically worthless, especially against the squids, because they don't have anything that you can really blow up. They don't really have mines. It can be useful for that, at least against the bugs and the bots to some extent. It can be kind of useful on certain planets for knocking out things, but the stim pistol is probably the worst solo if you're taking it on a squid mission, because it's really not going to do anything. Then we've got the Bushwacker, the good old boomstick here. This is a triple barrel shotgun, and this one is pretty decent against the squids. So this one only has light armor, but it does as much damage as the Punisher, doing 405 ballistic damage. That's at least with one shot. You can actually choose to fire out all 3 barrels if you'd like, and do a ton of damage. That's really not necessary against the Illuminate, unless you're using it against the flesh mob, which this shotgun does actually kind of kill them quickly, at least compared to the other secondary weapons, which is pretty cool. It does one-shot any of the voteless that are just running around. You can one-shot any of those squids, no problem. You can also bully any of the overseers with this, because you can spam them down pretty fast, and every hit, if it doesn't kill them, it's going to stagger them anyway. So, like, against all of those enemies, it's really nice. It won't do anything to the harvesters, just because it has the light armor pen rather than heavy medium, but still very solid for, like, a running gun build if you want to take it. So I'm going to put this one up into A tier. It's really nice. We have the last 58 Talon. This one is the laser revolver, and this one is really strong against the Illuminate. It's just been really strong in general since it came out. So this one is a space revolver that does 200 damage per shot, potentially has infinite ammo. You can spam it out as fast as you can fire, and if you do that, you get about 7 shots. Although if you take your time and let it cool down, you can have potentially infinite ammo with this. Reload's a little bit slow with it. This one also has medium armor pen, so it can hurt absolutely everything the Illuminate has, whether you want to just be shooting against voteless. It completely destroys like overseers really fast. You can use it to take out harvesters if you really want. You can use it to take out flesh mobs. It's actually pretty good for all of those jobs, and it works really well as a secondary for basically everything. Like, this one is just fantastic. It's going to go up into S tier too. Very similar to the Deagle. Not quite as spammable as the Deagle, because you don't have to worry about overheating with the Deagle, but it does do more damage per shot, and it potentially has a longer lifespan than the Deagle does, at least if you're not constantly picking up ammo or getting resupplies in. But you could argue that with the squid planets, there's usually plenty of bullets laying around, so the Deagle still is pretty much always in the game the same way the Talon is. Then we got one of my favorite secondaries with the P72 Crisper. This one is really cool with the new Illuminate changes, especially with the flesh mobs. So this one's your little handheld flamethrower. And this one does 375 damage per second with the fire. It can also do damage over time thanks to the fire sticking to stuff and burning. This one does actually have heavy armor pen if you need it, because that's just kind of how fire works in this. And you get like 4 magazines with this, as well as this one has like a 7 or 8 second burst of flames on it before it will run out. This one is actually really strong because the Voteless will just charge right at you and you can just burn the floor in front of you and you'll just watch them die. It's really good for that. It's pretty good for even the Overseers. So long as they're not flying, then that can actually be a little bit awkward hitting them with a flamethrower. But if they're on the ground, no problem, just run right up, burn them, you'll kill them in just a few seconds, especially if they stand in the fire, which they usually do for some reason. And this one actually kills the flesh mobs really, really fast. Pretty much use the whole canister on them, and they're very likely to die. If they're not dead, then they're very, very close to being dead. So like this one is one of the best. If you really hate the new flesh mobs, I would highly recommend you check out this one. I'm going to put this one high up into A tier, mostly because it is awkward if there's flying enemies, and sometimes the squids do like to throw out flying enemies like pretty often. So it's not always the best there, but against everything else, it's very, very solid. Next up is the grenade pistol, and the grenade pistol is really good for the Illuminate missions too, because you can close down ships very quickly with it. Against actually like fighting the Illuminate, the grenade pistol is kind of awkward because it can kill any of like the Voteless very quickly. You can just kill up crowds of them, assuming that they're close enough together. Grenade pistol's fine for that. It can two-shot the Overseers, and it's pretty useful if the Overseer puts up their shield, because you shoot this at it and it usually breaks their shield, as well as it can kind of hit nearby enemies, so it's a little bit easier to make your shots for clearing up crowds. Against everything else, it's just kind of okay. Like the flesh mobs can tank right through this without too much trouble. They don't really have too much of a problem with it. It's mostly just for like cleaning up the ships, and it's pretty good for that. I'm going to put this one into the utility tier just for that. I think it's a little bit better on like bot missions personally, and maybe bug missions, but it's still very good on like the squid missions too. Next we got the Plas Dagger, which has been fixed. So there's no longer the infinite ammo bug that you can do with this one, which did make it weaker. The Plas Dagger is pretty much the same as the Scythe, where you can just hold this down on a target and you'll just keep burning them. This does 250 damage per second, which isn't bad. It can clear through most of the enemies fairly fast. It doesn't clear through the medium enemies really quick. It works best against the Voteless. It's, I guess, kind of a way to engage on like flesh mobs, but it usually doesn't do the most against them either. Well, it can if you're allowed to just keep burning them. The laser weapons are actually really good for that. The Scythe and the laser cannon in particular are really good for killing them. But the Plas Dagger is probably the weakest option of those ones. It's still not bad because you potentially have infinite ammo with this, but it doesn't have any extra utility like it does on bot missions, where you can kind of use it to clear any sort of mines. So I don't think this one is as strong against the squids, but I'm still going to put it up into B tier. I think it's still a pretty decent secondary. It's just they wouldn't be my go-to for like a laser weapon, because like the Talon is just so much more convenient for fighting the squids with. Then we have the Ultimatum, which the Ultimatum did actually get changed in the latest patch. It definitely got nerfed against bots because it can no longer knock out jammers, which kind of sucks. That was something really cool about the Ultimatum that it could do previously. It can't do that now. It can one-shot Illuminate ships though, which is really, really good, and you can deal massive damage to the new flesh mobs. Like the Ultimatum, I think, can kill them if you direct impact them. If you don't and you shoot it near them and the explosion mostly hurts them, then they're going to be at pretty like critical health, so you should be able to switch to your primary and take them out. This one is another very specialized weapon where it's really good if you just want to run around and take out the ships that are nearby, especially if there's ammo boxes nearby. That's great because you can't carry very many rounds for the Ultimatum. But against like fighting regular Illuminate enemies that's not flesh mobs and that's not the ships, you're generally probably not really going to be using this because it's not really that great against Overseers. It can one-shot them, but using up one of these to one-shot an Overseer isn't really that crazy, and using it to blow up some of the Voteless also isn't really that crazy. This one I would say is another like utility option here. And then our very last weapon is the Plas 15 Loyalist, the plasma pistol, and this one is pretty cool. This one also has medium armor pen, which is a really big bonus for it. It does 125 damage, same as the Deagle. This one can do more damage though if you charge it up, as well as it has an explosion on the charge up. This is pretty much the Purifier, but in a smaller form, and this one holds like 7 shots, has about 8 extra mags to it, which is pretty good. This one is a little bit more awkward to be using against the squids than it is against like the bots, I find. The bots, it's really easy to take advantage of the Loyalist. The squids, it can be if you're only fighting like Overseers. If you're only fighting Overseers, this one's pretty good. If you're fighting flesh mobs, this one's pretty good. If you're fighting like a bunch of the voteless though, this one kind of depends because they can usually get on top of you fairly quickly and it makes it awkward to use a plasma weapon. I find that this one's not quite as good as like the Verdict is. I think the Verdict's a little bit better for like the same sort of job. It's a bit more spammy for kind of what I want to do against the Illuminate. So this one I'm still going to put high up into A tier. I think it's still a really good secondary weapon, just maybe not as strong as it is against like the bots. And this is where I'd put all the secondaries against the Illuminates. Generally speaking, they're all pretty decent against them, depending on what you want, but certain ones are definitely better than others. Tell me your thoughts on the secondary weapons against the squids down in the comments below. I'd love to hear that. Thank you guys so very much for watching this, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye, everybody!